May 27, 1947. Billie Holiday walked out of the Federal Reformatory for Women in Alderson, West Virginia, after serving 9.5 months for heroin possession. She was 32 years old, one of the greatest jazz singers who ever lived, and her career was over. Not because she'd served time, not because of the heroin addiction, but because while she was in prison, the New York City Police Department had revoked her cabaret card. That small piece of paper was everything. Without it, she couldn't perform in any venue in New York City that served alcohol, which meant she couldn't perform in jazz clubs, couldn't sing at the Apollo, couldn't work in the city where she'd built her name. Billie Holiday, Lady Day, the woman who'd sung Strange Fruit and made white audiences confront the horror of lynching, was being systematically destroyed, not by accident, by design. And the man orchestrating her destruction was Harry Anslinger, the head of the Federal Bureau of Narcotics. Anslinger hated Billie Holiday, hated her song, hated what she represented, and he'd made it his personal mission to silence her. He couldn't ban Strange Fruit legally, couldn't stop her from singing. So he did something else. He weaponized her addiction, used the law to destroy her piece by piece. And there was almost nothing anyone could do to stop him. Almost nothing. Except for what happened in 1949 when Bumpy Johnson tried. To understand why the FBI wanted to destroy Billie Holiday, you need to understand what Strange Fruit meant in 1939 America. Abel Mirapol, a Jewish schoolteacher from the Bronx, wrote it as a poem about lynching. Billie Holiday turned it into a song. 3 minutes and 12 seconds that described black bodies hanging from southern trees like strange fruit. White audiences were horrified, not at the lynchings, at the song. They didn't want to hear about racial violence during their night out. They wanted jazz to be entertainment, not political, not confrontational. But Billie kept singing it, every night, made audiences sit in silence and listen, wouldn't let them ignore it. Record companies refused to record it. Too controversial. Columbia Records, Billie's label, said no, so she recorded it with Commodore Records in 1939. It became her signature song, the song she'd be remembered for, the song that made her dangerous. Harry Anslinger saw Billie Holiday as a threat, not because of her music alone, but because she was a black woman with a platform, using that platform to make white America uncomfortable. She was singing about lynching to integrated audiences, making it impossible to ignore. And Anslinger, who'd built his career on the war on drugs and believed in maintaining racial hierarchies, wanted her silenced. He couldn't arrest her for singing, so he targeted her heroin addiction. Billie had been using heroin since the early 1940s. Like many jazz musicians, she'd gotten hooked young. It was destroying her health, her voice, her life. She knew it, tried to quit multiple times, failed multiple times. Anslinger used federal agents to follow her, document her drug use, build cases. Not to help her, to prosecute her, to make examples, to ensure that every time she tried to rebuild her career, there was another arrest, another headline, another reason for venues not to book her. The 1947 arrest was part of that pattern. Billie was performing in Philadelphia. Federal agents raided her hotel room, found heroin, arrested her. She was convicted and sentenced to a year and a day in federal prison, lost her cabaret card, lost her ability to perform in New York. When she got out in 1947, she was broken. Not just physically from the withdrawal and the prison time, but spiritually. The system had proven it could destroy her any time it wanted, and Harry Anslinger had made it clear he wouldn't stop until she was completely silenced. Billie Holiday and Bumpy Johnson had known each other since the 1930s. Not close friends, different circles. But Harlem was a small world at the top. Everyone who mattered knew everyone else. Billie had performed at the Apollo, at Small's Paradise, at the Cotton Club. Bumpy had seen her perform dozens of times, had respect for her artistry. More than that, Bumpy understood what she represented. She was Harlem's voice singing to the world. She took the pain and beauty of black life and turned it into art that couldn't be ignored. That mattered. That was worth protecting. After Billie lost her cabaret card in 1947, she tried to survive, performed in concert halls where cabaret cards weren't required. But those gigs were rare, didn't pay as well. She was struggling financially, struggling emotionally, and the federal agents were still following her, still watching, still waiting for the next arrest. By 1949, Billie was living in Harlem, trying to stay clean, trying to rebuild something from the wreckage of her career. And that's when she got word that scared her more than anything. The federal agents were building another case, planning another arrest, this time in New York. And if they arrested her again, she'd face serious time. Years, not months. Billie had a friend who knew Bumpy, not someone in the criminal world. A community activist, a woman who organized for tenants' rights, who knew both the street operators and the artists. She went to Bumpy and explained the situation. Billie Holiday was about to be arrested again. The feds were coming, and once they had her, they'd make sure she never performed again. Bumpy listened, asked questions. How certain was the arrest? Very certain. When? Within the week. Where? Her apartment in Harlem. Federal agents were building the case, getting the warrant. Bumpy made a decision. He couldn't stop the federal government. That was beyond his power. Couldn't bribe federal agents or intimidate them. Couldn't make the FBI back down. But he could buy time. And time might be enough for Billie to get out of New York, go somewhere the feds weren't immediately ready to arrest her. Bumpy had connections in the NYPD, cops on his payroll. Not federal agents, but local police who sometimes worked with federal agencies on raids and arrests. He reached out to one of his most reliable contacts, a sergeant named Murphy, who'd been taking Bumpy's money for 15 years. Murphy, the feds are planning to arrest Billie Holiday. I need to know when and where. Murphy was nervous. That's federal. I can't interfere with federal operations. I'm not asking you to interfere. I'm asking you to tell me what you know. When's the raid? Murphy was quiet. Then, Friday morning, 5 a.m. Her apartment on West 87th Street. Federal agents plus NYPD support. They've got the warrant. It was Tuesday. Bumpy had 3 days. He sent word to Billie through the same community activist friend. The raid is coming Friday. You need to leave New York. Tonight. The message came back. She won't go. Says she's not running anymore. Bumpy went to see Billie himself. Her apartment was small, shabby. Not what you'd expect for one of the greatest singers in America. But that's what happened when your career got destroyed. You ended up in shabby apartments trying to survive. Billie opened the door. She looked tired. Older than 34. The drugs and the stress and the persecution had aged her. Mr. Johnson, I heard you've been asking about me. Can I come in? She let him in. They sat in her small living room. Bumpy didn't waste time. They're raiding this apartment Friday morning. 5 a.m., federal agents. They've got a warrant. They're going to arrest you. And this time, you'll go away for years. Billie nodded slowly. I figured it was coming. They never stop. Every time I try to rebuild, there's another arrest, another headline, another reason for people not to hire me. So leave tonight. I'll get you to Chicago. You can stay there until this blows over. It won't blow over. It never blows over. I've been running from Harry Anslinger since 1939. I'm tired of running. Then you'll go to prison. Maybe that's what's supposed to happen. Maybe I'm supposed to be an example of what they do to black women who don't stay quiet. Bumpy leaned forward. Billie, I've seen a lot of people give up, accept their fate. Most of them regret it. You've got a voice that matters. The world needs to hear it. Don't let them silence you. She looked at him for a long moment. Why do you care? You run numbers. You don't have anything to do with music or singing or any of this. I care because you're Harlem. Because you took our pain and made it into something beautiful. Because strange fruit made white people uncomfortable, and that's exactly why it needed to be sung. Because artists like you are worth protecting, even when the whole government wants you destroyed. Billie's eyes filled with tears. I'm so tired. I know, but you're not done yet. She shook her head. I won't run. This is my home. If they're going to arrest me, let them arrest me in Harlem. Bumpy realized he couldn't change her mind. She'd made her choice, but he could do one more thing. Then at least let me give you one last night of dignity. One last performance before whatever comes next. I don't have my cabaret card. I can't perform in clubs. Not a club. Private event. Invitation only. No cabaret card needed. Small's Paradise. Thursday night. Just you, your voice, and the people who love you. Billie considered it. Who would come? Everyone. Everyone who matters. Thursday night, May 26th, 1949. Small's Paradise was packed. Word had spread through Harlem's networks. Billie Holiday was performing. One night only. Invitation only. People who'd known her for years. Musicians, artists, community leaders. Everyone who understood what was about to happen. Bumpy was at table 7. The room was silent as Billie walked onto the small stage. She looked fragile, beautiful, tragic. She sat on a stool. No band, just her voice and the silence. She sang 5 songs. God Bless the Child. Don't Explain. Good Morning Heartache. The Man I Love. And finally, Strange Fruit. When she sang Strange Fruit, the room was completely still. 300 people barely breathing, listening to her describe southern trees bearing strange fruit, black bodies swinging in the southern breeze, the pastoral scene of the gallant South with its bulging eyes and twisted mouth. It was devastating, powerful, everything the government wanted to silence. When she finished, nobody moved. 10 seconds of silence. Then someone started clapping. Then everyone. Standing ovation. 300 people on their feet for 5 minutes. Billie stood up, tears running down her face. She looked at Bumpy. Nodded. He nodded back. She left New York the next morning. Not because Bumpy convinced her. Because after that performance, she realized she wasn't done yet. Went to Chicago, then Detroit, then back to New York after a few months. But the arrest still came. Not that Friday. Bumpy's information had bought her time. But eventually, 1949, 1950, 1956. More arrests, more headlines, more persecution. Harry Anslinger never stopped. Used the full weight of the federal government to destroy her piece by piece. Billie Holiday died on July 17, 1959. She was 44 years old. Liver cirrhosis from years of alcohol and drug abuse. She died in Metropolitan Hospital in New York. And even then, even as she lay dying, there were federal agents in her hospital room. They'd arrested her on her deathbed for drug possession, put her under guard, made sure her final days were spent as a prisoner. When she died, she had 70 cents in the bank and $750 in cash strapped to her leg. That's what the federal government had reduced her to. One of the greatest artists America ever produced, dying broke and under arrest. Bumpy Johnson attended her funeral. July 21st, 1959, at St. Paul the Apostle Roman Catholic Church, 3,000 people showed up. Bumpy stood in the back, didn't speak, just stood there, watching as they buried the woman he tried to protect. After the service, someone asked him about Billie, about whether he'd tried to help her. Bumpy's response was simple. I gave her one more night of dignity. That's all I could do. The federal government wanted her destroyed, and I couldn't stop the federal government. Some battles you can't win, but you fight them anyway because it's right. That's the Bumpy Johnson story most people don't know. Not the victories, the limitations, the times when even power, money, connections, and street reputation weren't enough, when the system was too big, too determined, too ruthless. Bumpy protected Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. He negotiated with Lucky Luciano. He stopped threats against Malcolm X. He helped prevent nuclear war. He protected Muhammad Ali and Duke Ellington. He won those battles because he understood the systems he was fighting against and knew how to maneuver within them. But Billie Holiday, that was the federal government at its most vindictive. That was Harry Anslinger using the law as a weapon to destroy a black woman who dared to sing about lynching. And even Bumpy Johnson, with all his power in Harlem, couldn't stop it. What he could do was give her one more night, one more performance, one more moment of dignity before the persecution resumed. And sometimes, when you can't win the war, you fight for moments, for nights that matter, for performances that remind everyone what's being destroyed. May 26, 1949. Billie Holiday sang Strange Fruit at Small's Paradise. 300 people witnessed her voice at its most powerful and vulnerable. And Bumpy Johnson sat at table 7, knowing he'd given her something the federal government couldn't take away. One more night of being Lady Day, untouchable, undeniable, singing truth to a room that loved her. 10 years later, she died under federal guard. But that night at Small's Paradise, she was free. And sometimes freedom, even for one night, is the most powerful protection you can offer. If this story showed you the limits of power and the tragedy of government persecution, hit that subscribe button. We're telling the complete story, the victories and the defeats, the times Bumpy won, and the times even he couldn't stop the machine. Drop a like if you understand that some battles are worth fighting, even when you know you'll lose. And in the comments, let me know, should Bumpy have done more? Could anyone have saved Billie Holiday from Harry Anslinger's vendetta? Turn on notifications because this is the final chapter in our Bumpy Johnson series. 7 videos showing the complete picture of a man who protected black excellence across every field, who negotiated with mob bosses and prevented nuclear war, who fought racism and government persecution. This is the whole truth, the power and the limits, the victories and the tragedies. Remember, protection isn't always about winning. Sometimes it's about giving people dignity when the world is trying to take it away. And on that night in 1949, Bumpy Johnson gave Billie Holiday one more moment of dignity before the federal government destroyed her. That moment mattered. It still matters.